Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about Space Marine chapters as we get into another viewer request. You guys requested for the Celestial Lions, and we're going to provide that lore for you. This information was gathered through the amazing website of Wiki, or the Warhammer 40K Wiki. Link is going to be down in the description. If you guys have any requests for any type of Space Marine chapters that you guys would like us to create a video for, please comment down below. Don't forget to put suggestion followed by that Space Marine chapter. If you guys have any other suggestions of just Warhammer 40K in general that you want us to create a video about, comment that down below as well. With that said, let's get into 40 facts about the Celestial Lions. The Celestial Lions are a loyalist successor chapter of the Stoic Imperial Fist, raised in the latter of the 37th or 38th millennium as a possible chapter of the 23rd founding. The chapter has a long and glorious history stretching back over 4,000 standard years. The Celestial Lions chapter's power armor is primarily gold, with azure-colored shoulder pads and helmets. A Pride leader is designated by a black-colored helmet. The white-colored squad specialty symbol, Tactical Assault Devastator or Veteran, is indicated on the right shoulder guard. A black Roman numeral centered on the squad specialty symbol indicates company number. The Celestial Lions chapter badge is a profile of a white-colored, roaring lion's head. Sometimes it is golden, for squad leaders and above. It is surrounded upon a field of blue azure. Sometimes this symbol is surrounded by 3 4-pointed stars, placed in a triangular pattern. Lion iconography is also often incorporated as decoration upon their armor. Their battle cry is, "We are the Emperor's pride, hear us war." The Lions are a hardened veteran force, fully able to embrace the concept of the Codex Astartes, like their predecessors, the Imperial Fist, adhering to the precepts of the Codex in spirit, but deviating in several regards. All ranks are able to make tactical decisions, and are encouraged to act in their own initiative. The Celestial Lions combine all arms in flexible, balanced battle groups, each of which can present an opponent with a diverse group of threats. Then press their attack so swiftly that the foe is overwhelmed before he can react. The Celestial Lions' order of battle contains several specialty formations and officer positions not presented in other Space Marine chapters, though they are largely resemble the standard Codex position. War Leader is a captain, Death Speaker is a chaplain, Spirit Walker is a librarian, Life Binder is an apothecary, Pride Leader is a squad sergeant, and designated by a black color helm. During the 4 millennia after their creation, the Lions proved to be a resolute chapter and true scions of Dorn, fiercely defending the realm of man from the enemies of the Emperor. But the Lions' fierce pride and moral principles that have always governed their chapter's thoughts and deeds may have contributed to their own destruction. Their history is tied to the Kataran insurrection and the Inquisition, who is a highly secretive organization, bound by no imperial law or authority except their own and that of the God Emperor. But the Inquisition does not exist in the same sense most imperial citizens believe, as a cohesive, interlinked cobweb of organized power. They are made up of individual men and women with widely different ideologies, tactics, and goals, invested with ultimate authority and immunity from all persecution and autonomy from all law. Everything else comes down to what they achieve, and what personal power they amass. Even their precious ordos are lines of alignment, philosophies of specialization and intent, not armies of organized allegiance. Their power is both utterly real and a cunning illusion, all at once. They are in all ways the exact opposite of the Adeptus Astartes, whose temporal authority has been stripped back since the Horus Heresy. Yet these genetically enhanced transhuman warriors play an essential role in the defense of the Imperium, needing no illusions of commanding great power. Their chapter fleets and brotherhoods spoke for themselves. Inquisitors are granted the most nebulous of virtues, authority. When an Inquisitor calls upon Imperial resources, he or she relies on the threat of authority, rather than any real organization lending support for their needs. This was the case when the Inquisition called upon the Celestial Lions in the 948th year of the 41st millennium to come to their aid to help put down a planetary-wide revolt on the shrine world of Katara. Few chapters knew of what happened at Katara. and even fewer spoke of it, for those that were aware of the planet's annihilation most likely did not regard it as a true threat to the autonomy of the Adeptus Astartes, preferring to focus on their own concerns and their own wars. What little people knew of Katara came down to the conflict of pride and duty between the Lions and the Inquisitorial allies, the kind of conflict that takes place 1,000 times each year across the Imperium's vast spread of worlds. Many of these disagreements turned to bloodshed. What made the Lion situation so galling was that they had reacted with a measure of composure and reason, when they had every right to draw their bolters and finish it in a blunter, more efficient way. Katara was a world of priests and preachers, of followers and the faithful, an ecclesiarchal world in thrall to the ivory tower priest of the Imperial Creed. The priesthood had secretly fallen into deviance, and as so many do so, they prayed to the ruinous powers, and their dark untruths carried the faithful masses away from the Emperor's light, spreading to the highest echelons and furthest reaches. The apostles had corrupted the people of the planet through the blasphemy and lies, compelling enough to sound like truth to a society wearing of their prayer and going answers. Though the Emperor was immortal and mighty beyond reckoning, he was no god. Mankind, in its blessed ignorance, worshipped him as one. Yet false gods cannot answer prayers. How tempting it must have been to those sects and societies far from Terra to seek other answers when pleading with the Emperor brought them silence. The planetary defense force of Katara did not rise up to purge the revolt. They joined it, and soon more were still to come. Imperial Guard regiments in nearby systems did the same. Such was the ferociousness of Katara's blasphemies. It was Inquisitor Apollyon who pleaded for the support of the Celestial Lions for his efforts to crush the faithless lies that had met with failure after failure. The Inquisitor processed an Imperial Navy blockade, but nothing in the way of surface troops. So in the wake of his failure, the Lions made planetfall in full force. Hundreds of Astartes rained holy fire, sacred iron, and true faith on a world that had forgotten the taste of the three. Slaughter soon followed, as the rebel forces were comprised of mere men and women, following the lies of false prophets. The Lions utterly destroyed them, all of them, every man and woman with a weapon in their hands. The chapter quenched the rebellion in a matter of weeks. No armies existed once they were finished with Katara, not even a town militia. Nowhere on the world did a single priest still draw breath. With the armed resistance annihilated, the Celestial Lions returned to their ships in orbit. Whatever heresy lingered among the defenseless population was under the eyes of others, no longer a matter for bolter and blades. Such misplaced faith the Lions had in their allies. As with any cleansing, the Lions expected preachers of the Imperial Creed to take over, shepherding the lost populace back to enlightenment. It took several days for the chapter to recover their war materials, honor their dead, and prepare to leave. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor's work continued in the world below, assessing the population of 8 billion for signs of further deviance. As the Lions departed, their warships scarcely out of orbit, the Inquisitor's warships opened fire on the world below. The rest of the Imperial Navy blockade fired with him, targeting cities and population centers, as the Lions watched the Imperial warships carry out Apollon's order of exterminatus, spitting fire onto the world that they had just bled to cleanse of corruption. They became enraged as they witnessed their honor burned with those cities. Every shot that had fired was betrayed as a waste in an instant. The Celestial Lion's Lord demanded the blockade to cease fire and answer for his actions. Apollon's refused, claiming that he had determined the entire population tainted beyond salvation. He even thanked the Lions for their worthy efforts, though they were in vain. An hour later, Katara's cities were dust. It was possible that he was astute in his observation. Heresy had clearly taken root through Katara's society. Perhaps it had worn as deep as Apollon claimed. Inquisitors were capable of determining the corruption in the minds of men in the space of a heartbeat, and a man like the Inquisitor's position could afford no chances. The Inquisitor had acted with the right granted by his rank. He did as many of the inquisitorial kindred would do. He also did as the chapter master would have done. That did not make it right or virtuous, it merely made it real. Perhaps the Inquisitor was merely a hasty fool, to whom life meant little. This mournful truth was one that those who witnessed the Inquisitor's heinous actions would have to live with. He was hardly the first man of exalted rank to decay in a position of power. Despite their ire, instead of violence, the Alliance Chapter Command sent word throughout the subsector, warning all Imperial outposts and regional governors what had occurred, and decrying the actions of the Inquisition. Word was sent directly to Terra, a delegation of death speakers and war leaders chosen for the task, to show the gravity of the situation. They would never set foot on the Holy Throne world. Their vessels was found 2 years later, dead in the void, deep in Orc-controlled space. All damage was indicative of the ruinous warp flight. There was no signs of weapon fire on the hull. It was a common enough occurrence. The interior of such unfortunate vessels had all life torn into genetic scrap, all metal mutated and poisoned beyond salvation. Over the coming decades, the Celestial Alliance kept demanding an investigation into this massacre. They sent word to the Imperial officials, who would listen, from planetary regents to the priest-kings of the ecclesiarchal worlds. If any such investigation took place, it remained a mystery to the Alliance. The chapter's highly vocal denouncement of the Inquisition and demand for investigation raised the ire of many important people within the Imperium's most senior circles. This highly vocal condemnation may have contributed to the recent misfortune which nearly destroyed the chapter. In the 998th year of the 41st millennium, the Third War of Armageddon began. This was a massive conflict between the Imperium of Man and the largest orc wall ever raised, led by the green-skinned warlord, Godskul Mag Uruk Thraka. The war was fought on the hive world of Armageddon, where Godskul Thraka had launched his first attempt to seize the planet exactly 57 standard years before. The conflict eventually drew in portions of more than 25 Space Marine chapters, dozens of Imperial Guard regiments, and several Titan legions. The Celestial Alliance had brought 983 warriors to this world. Their entire chapter had landed on Armageddon. Before dawn, over the Manham Gap, they had been on the surface for 3 months and 16 days, defending High Vulcanus on the west coast of Armageddon Prime. In the span of time, all of which was spent bolter to blade in the city's burning streets, they suffered casualties far, far in advance of any other chapter. Everywhere they fought, the enemy struck back in overwhelming numbers. Countless times, they were deployed to reinforce elements of the Imperial Guard that were already long dead by the time the Lions arrived, leaving the Space Marines deep in enemy territory without easy withdrawal. On at least 15 catalogued occasions, they were ordered to advance on specific critical objectives, only to find themselves alone without the planned support force or the promised reinforcement. As casualties mounted, ambushes were common, even on routine patrols through pacified territory. The Lions were assigned to hold crucial districts and sectors, and accordingly moved in force to cover all necessary grounds. Yet they found their patrols being hit harder than any orbital intelligence had predicted. The enemy would appear in numbers undreamed, rising from ambushes in sectors that were recorded as being most viciously cleansed beforehand. And those were 40 facts about the Celestial Alliance. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course we're not done. We're going to find out what happens to the Celestial Alliance in Armageddon, but what I need from you guys is please subscribe to the channel so that you can get that video, and secondly, hit the like button. If we could reach 500 likes on this video, the Celestial Alliance won't die in Armageddon. I'm lying. Again, guys, thank you so much for everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to keep supporting us, jump on over to Patreon. A simple $1 a month helps us create more videos for you guys. And again, any suggestions, comment down below. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.